Hi guys, this is Jamal Green. This video blog, um, not sure where it's gonna really go. The topic is the war in Afghanistan. There has been an ongoing debate in this country in light of the leaks of classified documents by WikiLeaks, um, about the Afghan war, about the conduct of Pakistan in aiding the Taliban in the Afghan war. Um, but my opinion of the Afghan war has been an ever evolving one. And of course, in the beginning, in 2001, when we initially went into Afghanistan, um, I supported it, and I believe that a majority of the American people supported it. After all, um, this government, the government of Afghanistan, the Taliban at the time, were harboring and protecting the people who were responsible for killing 3,000 Americans. Al Qaeda had training camps. They trained and planned missions and attacks against the United States and against our allies in Afghanistan. So to destroy their military installations, to destroy their training camps, to root out Al Qaeda and destroy that network within that country was something that I supported, and like I said, and I believe that a majority of the American people supported. Um, hmm. In the ongoing war on terrorism, um, it's ever evolving, and I really don't like to use the war on terrorism, because I think that's really a PC term, even though today that's not even considered politically correct to even say war on terrorism. But I consider the war on terrorism to be a politically correct term, but when we're actually in a struggle against radical Islamic jihadists. We are in a struggle against radical Islam, and I mean there's no question, there's no doubt about that. The reason why we are in Afghanistan is because of radical Islamic jihad. The reason why Pakistan is in danger of being destabilized is because radical jihad. The reason Israel faces the threat from Iran is due to radicalized jihad, radicalized Islam jihad. Um, so I don't have any doubts about that. When President Bush in 2003, when we began the operation into Iraq, I was an initial supporter of the Iraq invasion. I mean, basically due to the evidence from the intelligence that we had. And it wasn't just American intelligence. It was British intelligence. It was Israeli intelligence. It was the Egyptian intelligence. I mean, there were several intelligence services all over the world that came back with the same conclusion that we did, that Saddam Hussein indeed had a WMD, weapons of mass destruction program, and we believed that at the time that it was in the process of being reconstituted, or could have already been reconstituted, but was in its earlier stages. So the initial decision to invade Iraq was, I know, one that split. It was a decision that split a lot of people in the country, because a lot of people understood the correlation between Afghanistan and 9/11, but the correlation between Iraq and 9/11, I don't think a lot of people, well, some people, I mean, there were some people at the time that rightfully questioned that rationale and that reasoning for going to war. Um, like I said, the knowing what I know now, would have went into Iraq? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, if I was president and I knew at the time that that the intelligence that I had received was, or early intelligence I had received was faulty or was not correct. Yeah, in hindsight, I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have done that. I don't think that would have been the right decision. However, we did invade Iraq. It wasn't a lie. The president didn't lie us into war. The definition of a lie is basically saying an untruth, but knowing it's an untruth when you say it. Just because the intelligence that we had and that other nations around the world had came back to be not 100% accurate, it doesn't mean that someone lied to get the country into war. I don't believe that. I would never believe that. But we were in Iraq. Things in Iraq start to go bad in 2006, and the President Bush, he decided that he was going to do the surge. He decided that he was going to do this counterinsurgency strategy, and that was also something that I supported. And the reason why I supported the counterinsurgency strategy and giving Iraq that one more chance to see if that fledgling democracy could survive on its own, could if it had the enhanced security, could the political process, would the people come together, would the politicians come together, and would they try to form a working democracy? Their version of a democracy, not America's version, because they're never going to be an Americanized democracy, American-like democracy, I should say. The reason I supported the surge is because I saw the people of Iraq. The people of Iraq began to turn on the insurgents. They began to turn on the militias. It began with the what they call the Sunni awakening, or some call it the Anbar awakening, when the tribal leaders and the people in those towns and villages and cities throughout Iraq begin to side with Western American forces and said, we don't want this in our country. We don't want the bombings and the killings and the suicide missions. We're tired of it, and so they began to root out these Shiite and these Shiite death squads and these militias, these foreign fighters. They began to tell on them, and that was something that helped me support President Bush's effort. That was something that helped me support his decision, because I said, well, if we have the people of Iraq, they want this now. They really want this. They've seen the choice, between what it could be. If America leaves and the Islamists take over, they see what it could be. Or, if they side with us and help us against these Islamists, against the radicals, against the militias, what it could be. And they sided with us. And so that in turn, enabled me to side with them and to side with what President Bush had decided to do. And as we can see, that the surge has been it's been pretty successful in Iraq. The counterinsurgency strategy it appears to have worked. Yes, there are still some, there are still violent levels of violence in Iraq. There probably will be some level of violence in Iraq for some time to come. That's just an adjustment period. But Iraq is not a failure. Turn to Afghanistan. Speaking of failure, the problem that I have with the war in Afghanistan, well, there are multiple problems I have with the war in Afghanistan. One is staying on the topic of what I was talking about with the people. Politicians and policymakers routinely like to quote these polls that they say, done by like the, Pew Research Center or something, that have supposedly conducted all these polls in Afghanistan, and saying that the Afghan people don't want the Taliban. But what they fail to also tell, and it could be true, but what they fail to also tell you is that the people in Afghanistan actually trust the Taliban more than they trust the Karzai government. See, that's one thing that our government and our policymakers and the talking heads in the news